Okay, we are live. All right, Bismillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So my name is Muhammad Faisal. I'm the chief examiner at Nafi. Today we have level 3 exam for a student who is 15 years old, mashallah. And his name is it Muhammad Sulaiman?
Muhammad Sulaiman Amir.
Muhammad Sulaiman Amir. He's from Peshawar, my hometown, mashallah. And he is going for his topic. The topic that he has is Diploma in Cloud Cybersecurity, EduQual Level 3. Okay,
Precisely.
inshallah. Okay, it's the same drill as you have seen multiple times online. You will have minimum 15, maximum 25 minutes to go through your presentation, inshallah. Okay. After the presentation, we will have a Q&A. A Q&A session is where we will go through a series of questions, almost 10 questions, right?
Sure.
And then I will let you know if you have passed or failed the exam, right? The goal here is to make sure that we cover the level 3 topic or the level 4 or 5 or 6 applicable to the exam. This is level 3 EduQual level exam. So I'm not going to delve deeper into the topic for some of the technical core areas. No, that is not the goal. The goal is to make sure that I do justice with the topic that I already have, right? The presentation is pretty straightforward. We are going to focus on the core objectives, implementation of the ISO 27018 for protection of personal data in the cloud. 27017 and 018 are the two standards from the ISO 27000 series. So you'll be going through the 27018 specifically. Data privacy in telecommunication systems hosted on GCP and Azure, using open source tools for monitoring and privacy management, right? The key learning objectives are already covered. Implement 27018, use Azure Security Center and GCP privacy tools, deploy open source tools for GDPR and privacy compliance monitoring, right? So inshallah, you are enforcing the policy compliance through Azure and GCP privacy tools, but then you are monitoring the compliance through open source tools, right? It's a very simple topic. It doesn't have a lot of depth as compared to the AI ops topics. They do because it's level 3, right? So are you ready to start your presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, let me start the timer.
Sure.
I will let you know. You can share your screen. Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Please proceed.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Muhammad Sulaiman Amir from Peshawar, Pakistan. Today I've been given the task to explain and present the very critical topic of data privacy on cloud, especially in the domain of personally identifiable information. As industries are more opting for cloud, we needed a certain standard and standard to have certain regulations to actually protect personally identifiable information on cloud, because day by day companies are increasingly having this inclination towards cloud. So today we're going to be covering this topic, especially the standard that has been set by International Standardization Organization, and I'm sure you're going to get all the things I'm trying to explain. So before encountering any problem, you'll have to actually see why it actually matters. Is it even worth your time or not? So the first thing we're going to see is are a couple of facts, and that are in 2023, over actually 5 billion telecom records were exposed in cloud breaches. So what this means is that these 5 billion telecom records weren't just records. This consisted of petabytes of personally identifiable information, which can be used to authenticate into platforms where you have very critical data. So a big breach has taken place, and then we have the increasing shift to cloud has made telecom data a prime target for cyber threats. Just as I mentioned earlier, it's actually expected that in 2030, almost 85% of global multinational, international companies are going to opt for cloud. So we need actually a standard to make sure things are in their place. So what happens if telecom privacy isn't ensured? The first thing you get as the conclusion of not actually protecting telecom data properly is identity theft. And the second thing is call SMS interception. People can actually listen. An eavesdropper can actually listen and intercept the data you're actually communicating online with anybody you're talking to. And then you have a location tracking abuse. People can actually track where you are geographically and bully you accordingly. Then you have unauthorized data mining. So people can actually mine your data and store that on premises on their computers via hacking into your system. All of these things that we just discussed are extremely, extremely dangerous things which needs to be prevented. So that is where we need ISO 27018. This was a standard that was introduced in 2014 to actually address the gap in cloud privacy guidelines. There was actually a gap. There wasn't a proper extensive standard which compendiously described how to protect personally identifiable information on cloud. So then, as an extension of ISO 27001, which actually focused on PII in cloud computing, we then had 27018 to actually protect PII in cloud computing. The objective of this standard was to protect personally identifiable information by cloud providers, such as Amazon Web Services or Google Drive, Azure, or whatever that was. Then why actually today, why our domain is specifically telecom? That is because there are massive loads of personally identifiable data stored in calls, messages, and metadata, which need to be protected. Then we had regulatory compliance challenges. We had regulations like GDPR, and then we had CCPA, which actually required many multinational international companies to implement such a proper standard to protect PII. And then actually the standard is a very extensive one. We can't share all of it due to the limitation of time, but I've taken out the main core components of the standard. I've taken out 5 mainly. The first one is the consent and purpose specification. So any cloud service provider who is intending to actually store some data on its systems from another person, it has to take a consent and extensively explain to the person it's storing the data from of its intentions of what he's going to do with that specific piece of data. And the second thing is that not actually trespassing the boundaries that he has described in the consent, just using it for those intentions which he actually described. Then is transparency. Users must have full control over their data. Even on, well-known cloud platforms such as AWS or Azure, you have full transparency. You can actually even control where your data is placed in which geographical location. So that is a very good example and a very good instance of transparency. You have full control over your data. And the third point that comes your way is security and confidentiality. Now, PII is actually super critical. So PII must be protected against unauthorized access and breaches. So what you need to do is you need to implement proper security controls in place to actually protect this PII. The fourth point that comes from the standard is compliance and auditability. Organizations must demonstrate compliance via audits and reports. Organizations where you actually store your data, they tell you that they're actually storing your data securely and transparently and processing it in the way they actually described in the consent. But they also are required to give you audits and reports to actually show you a testament that they're actually following the boundaries they're actually set out for. The fifth thing that you have is breach notification and response, which is actually significantly important when it comes to security, is that mandatory incident reporting and rapid response. As soon as you come to know that the data has been breached, you need to actually inform the stakeholders, the customers whose data it actually was via a notification response. So this is what you actually, these are the 5 core principles that the ISO standard actually presents. So now what we're going to discuss is, I think this is a repetition. Okay. So there are multiple cloud providers globally, but the domain of this today's presentation is specifically going to be GCP and Azure, Google Cloud Provider. And we're going to study how Google Cloud Provider actually implements all those 5 core principles that we discussed. So the first tool we have on GCP is the Google Cloud DLP, which actually identifies and masks PII, just as you have the Macy. It's a tool on AWS. What it does is it actually, leveraging AI, it identifies PII and it tells you to protect it. So same is the case with GCP. It has a tool called DLP, which runs a scan and actually identifies the personally identifiable information consisted in a specific data set. The second thing is Google IAM policies, which control access to telecom data. IAM policies is actually the acronym for Identity and Access Management. These are policies implemented on such platforms to make sure only authorized individuals have access to this data. The third point you have is the third service that GCP has is Google Security Command Center, which is used for threat detection for telecom. The fourth one is Google Cloud Audit Logs, which is actually super important. Even if it's not cloud, if it's on premises, you still need proper logs to make sure you can track specific events that have taken place along with timestamps. And the fifth thing you have is Key Management Service, KMS. This is actually this is also found in AWS. What it does is it encrypts telecom data and it stores and rotates all those encryption keys for you securely. And then the second last point we have is access transparency. It logs internal access to PII. So it logs all the API requests made to the PII dataset, and it gives you an extensive audit log report where you can actually track things back in time. And the last thing, but not the least one, is assured workloads. It provides compliance-focused cloud solutions. The next main cloud platform we're going to discuss is Azure, and we're actually discussing the services it implements to make sure all those 5 core components of the ISO 27018 standard are being met. So the first one is Azure Purview. It identifies and monitors PII in telecom data sets. It's pretty much the same as the DLP in the GCP. Then you have the Azure Active Directory, the old school one, which you also find on Windows server machines on premises. It restricts access to telecom metadata. Then you have the security standard, which monitors and mitigates security threats. And the fourth one is the Key Vault, which is pretty much like the KMS on GCP and the KMS on AWS. It encrypts sensitive telecom data. And along with this, it also implements key rotation, which is important for the protection of the key in and of itself. Because if the attacker actually has hold of the key, then you're done. Even your encryption doesn't work anymore. So you need to actually rotate the keys to make sure they're being protected. Then you have Azure Sentinel, which is an AI-driven threat detection service for telecom. And the last one is the Compliance Manager, which generates audit-ready compliance reports. Then we discuss here the outcomes of being compliant to the ISO 27018 standard. The first one is enhanced customers' trust, which is actually pretty obvious, because to make sure your brand is profitable and has a lot of customers, you need to make sure that the customers actually trust you with their critical data. So by implementing ISO and having their badge on your company's logo, the customers can actually be they can sleep a good night's sleep if they know you're ISO compliant, knowing that their data is actually in good hands. The second thing is regulatory compliance. just as we discussed on the first slide, we are required by regulations like GDPR and CCPA, and actually telecom regulations to make sure the data is secure. So via being compliant to the ISO certification, you're also being compliant to all these global regulations. And you can prevent a lot of hassle via this. This third one is stronger data security, which is obvious because this is the main point of the entire standard, to make data more secure. The fourth advantage you get is the competitive advantage. You actually, there are a lot of companies out there, and they give you a strong and sharp competitive edge by having being ISO compliant. And the last one is operational efficiency. You can standardize security processes and streamline operations. So this was almost pretty much it. And the final thoughts I would give is privacy isn't actually a feature, it's a fundamental right. For telecoms, ISO 27018 compliance is not an option, it's actually a necessity. So for companies which are actually implementing, which are storing telecom data, especially the cloud ones, the actionable takeaways I can give you is to ensure your telecom cloud provider is ISO certified. The second thing you need to make sure is that they implement security best practices in GCP and Azure, and conduct regular privacy audits and updates. So that was pretty much it. Thank you all for bearing with me all this time.
Yeah, mashallah, that's very good.
Yeah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I'm going to ask you some series of questions. You can stop the screen, please, if you can.
Sure.
Okay. You can stop the sharing. Stop participation.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. That's okay.
Oh,
All right.
yeah.
All right. So let's go through the Q&A session. So in what way, you mentioned metadata is very important for telecommunication records, right? So in what way
Yes.
would metadata from telecom records, which is hosted in GCP, be exploited if the ISO 27018 breach notifications and auditability principles are poorly implemented? I mean, what happens like if you poorly implement ISO 27018 principles and the metadata from the telecom companies hosted on GCP is exploited and breached, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
So actually,
how would you deal with this situation?
yeah. So metadata, to start with, you need to know that metadata is a very important, part of PII, because it give even if you don't have the actual data, metadata tells a lot about the actual data, as it describes what it is. And then as I discussed earlier, there are certain tools on GCP and Azure which can be implemented to protect the metadata.
So you just gave me the definition of metadata, but okay, explain to me metadata. What's in metadata in the telco concept, in the telco, context?
It's a file which actually describes the telecom records, when they were created, where was this file actually created, when was it last modified, all these nitty-gritties would
For
actually
example, call
describe data.
times, location
Sure.
tags, duration.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can these things be weaponized without directly accessing the content? Can I piece information together by just looking at the pieces of metadata?
Exactly. You can actually, metadata tells a lot about the actual data.
Okay. So if audit logs, so what principles of ISO 27018, if they are poorly configured, can result in the breach of metadata in the telco context? What is that? What are those core principles?
Encryption is the main thing. Encryption is the main thing, actually. Metadata must be encrypted, even though it actually can't be. There are certain tools on cloud providers which you can leverage to actually protect this metadata. And if you don't do it, what is going to happen is,
in the context of 27018, if encryption is poorly implemented,
Yeah, the
then
third
data
principle
can be
of
compromised.
the ISO standard will be, not complied towards, which is security and confidentiality.
Okay, just give me
Yeah,
some pointers, right? So you mentioned if encryption is poorly implemented, then metadata can be compromised or breached. What else is
precisely.
what else can be poor if poorly implemented can also result in attacker getting access to metadata? What else?
Unauthorized access, I guess. Unauthorized access
Authorized
can
access.
actually,
It's good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So if the identity access management is not configured properly in the context of 27018, then metadata can.
exactly,
Okay. All right.
exactly,
Okay. So how can Azure Sentinel, you mentioned Azure Sentinel, which is an
precisely.
AI-driven threat detection conflict, solution, right? It detects threat detection and whatnot. You
Sure.
know, does it, in the 27018, there is a very important clause known as consent and purpose specification, right? If you review the
Yeah,
27018 standard, right? So with respect to this conflict and purpose specification of 27018, how does it, conflict? It creates a conflict with the Azure Sentinel AI-driven threat detection. How does it happens?
I actually didn't get your question. Can you
Okay,
please
so
go? Yeah,
there is a solution known as Azure Sentinel, which is AI
yeah,
threat detection, right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great. But in the 27018, there's a clause known as consent and purpose specification principle, right?
Exactly. Got your question. Got your
Right?
question.
So what
So yeah.
technical design pattern must be implemented to reconcile that there is no conflict created by the Azure Sentinel, right?
Yeah. So actually, a Zero Sentinel is a tool which has AI algorithms in place to actually scan your data and identify patterns which could actually result in potential security threats. So while this is a good tool, what it can do is it might process some data which you didn't intend. So what you're supposed to do is you're in the consent, you have to actually ask the customer that certain parts of his data might be scanned by such tools to implement security. So all you have to do is actually just mention it in the consent. That's it.
So you mentioned in the
Yeah,
content, and then you can use basically or
yeah, yeah.
also tokenize or anonymize the data as well
Yeah,
before being ingested by the Centennial.
yeah. You can omit certain parts of the data to make sure it isn't breached.
This is what Apple and many of these companies, Google, I mean, they get access to your data anyway. I mean, but Apple
Yeah,
has some better privacy controls as compared to other, mobile providers like,
yeah,
then again, this is only at the mobile level, but when it comes to telco, each and every country, uh, treats the metadata or the data related to the customers in a different way, right?
yeah.
And
Exactly.
some of these countries, they do some pretty weird stuff. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. All right, the next question is considering Google Cloud DLP, right?
GG.
Uh, Service, how would you structure an architecture to balance performance optimization and transparency requirement for telecommunication metadata scanning at a petabyte scale, right? How would
Yeah,
you implement the DLP solution from GCP in a way? How would you design the architecture in a way that you are able to balance the performance optimization? Because petabyte scale, it's a ton of data.
yeah.
How would you do that?
Sure. So actually, Google Cloud, along with having security services, it actually has tools which could. There's a tool called multi-part acceleration. What it does is it processes data parallelly
Sorry,
instead of
what's the
wait.
name? What's the name?
I don't know the specific name, but there's a tool which I think it's multi-part.
Multi-part. Okay.
Yeah, it actually processes your data parallelly, multiple packets at the same time to make sure.
Normally Google uses for the DLP inspection BigQuery on cloud storage.
Okay,
But
okay,
anyway, okay, go ahead.
yeah,
There are
yeah,
so many open source tools available, so I may have lost part.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
explain.
So
Explain.
what it does is it actually takes multiple packets in parallel and processes them asynchronously to make sure data is being processed at a very high speed compared to the normal rate. So that is what it actually does.
So you're saying like, well, there's more to the answer, but I will take that one. Okay, so architecture part is different. You have to create the whole architecture. Okay, so let's jump on to the next question. So under 27018, 27018 relies on what standard to borrow its controls from?
Can you go for it again? 278?
27018 is the standard, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Relies on what base standard from which it borrows controls? Is it easy?
Are you referring to CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability?
Oh, 27018 is a standard, right? It's
Yeah,
part of which largest standard on which it stands upon?
ISO, IEC.
ISO IC, which part? Like, what's the name of the base
27,001.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so under the 270, 27017, 018, all those other standards, they stand upon the 27,001 standard, right? Okay.
Precisely.
27,001 talks about what? Covers what?
27,001 is
27,002.
basically about, it's actually about the implementing the security of personally identifiable information. That is what it does as a whole, but 27,018, which was the the point of focus for today's presentation, is specifically made for the cloud.
No. I know.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
for the cloud, but that's 27018, right? That you're talking about. But I'm saying
Yeah.
there are two parts of 27,000 standard because it comes, it's the 018 cannot stand without the 27,001 standard, right? So my
Exactly.
question is, there are two parts of 27,001 standard, 27,000 standard. So there's 27,001 and then there is 27,002. What's the difference between both?
One is for cloud and the other one is for on-premises.
No.
Uh,
You cannot implement,
Let me guess.
you cannot get certified in 27,018 without getting the certification of 27,001 and 2, right? Because this is part of the main standard, right? So when the organization gets certified, they need to get certified with respect to 27,000 standard, which has 017, 018, and various other standards, right? So you just say, okay, for this one, we are implementing as per the cloud. So 27,001 has two parts, 27,001, which
and
talks about the
27,002.
ISMS management system, the main management clauses, 4 to 8, and 27,002 only talks about controls. That was the question I was asking. Okay, let's jump on. So in the 27018 standard, as per your application, your presentation, there is security and confidentiality, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? There's a clause in there. Describe how the combination of Azure Key Vault and GCP KMS can be abused if inter-cloud telecom workloads are not correctly isolated.
Yeah, so what the attacker can do is it can actually access as I have previously mentioned during while I was presenting, is that even if you encrypt your data, if the attacker has hold of the key, then you're done. So you need to actually have certain lifecycle policies for the key to actually make sure it doesn't get into the attacker's hands. So what it does is the two tools you mentioned, KMS and Azure Vault, what they do is they have an option to actually encrypt the key in and of itself with another key. So even if the attacker gets hold of the key, he cannot actually. So the long story short, it has two layers of security, and the second thing is it rotates it. So you need to actually protect the key as well, apart from the data. So these are what these two tools do. And if they're not implemented, the attacker can easily get hold of your data.
Okay, so how can 27018 principles fail? Oh,
Yeah, if you
I should not be covering the serverless architecture because this is outside the scope of the exam. Okay, so let me rephrase the question.
sure.
Okay. Give you another question. I can't go into that's the AI ops part, right? I have to do because my mind works in level 5 and 6, right? More. So for level 3, I have to step back a lot, right? And there's a big, huge difference. So describe a privacy compromise scenario in Azure if role-based access are back and
Yeah.
label-based policies are misaligned in
What was the second thing apart from RBAC?
in a telecom data flow. So the first thing is role-based, I mean, you mentioned in your presentation.
Yeah.
So Azure role-based access and label-based policies are misaligned. If they're both misaligned, what happens? How does this break the
Azure,
27018 framework? What happens?
RBAC and the label. What was the second thing?
So the first one is RBAC, role-based access control, and the
Yeah,
second, label-based policies.
label-based policies. I've never heard of them. Like,
The label-based policies is just like, you create labels. What are the labels? Confidential, secret, top secret,
yeah,
public,
yeah. So if you,
private.
yeah,
So you
got
need
it
to label the
exactly.
information, right? As
Yeah,
per
yeah,
the
exactly.
information label,
Yeah, yeah,
classification, as we call it, right?
yeah, yeah.
We
So
apply policies, right? So
yeah,
that's what I
if
meant.
yeah, if you don't actually, yeah, I got the question. If you don't actually, accurately and precisely label your data, what you're gonna do is mistakenly and accidentally you're going to assign the wrong RBSC policy to it because they're based on the label of the data. So if you mess up with the label, you're gonna give it the wrong RBSC, which means that the wrong type of user will be authenticated to access the data. So you actually destroyed, I think, all of the 5 core principles which were part of the ISO, especially the third one, which was security and confidentiality.
Okay.
Was that pretty much it?
I will take that answer.
Yeah,
You have to mention, it violates the reason I was saying, like, how does this break the ISO framework? Role-based access control is based on what? Need to know as per your role, right?
yeah,
And classification principles are there, or as we call it, label-based or classification-based policies are designed for creating transparency or contextualize the information enforcement, right? So I will take that. It's okay. It's a good answer. All right. So how can all of this while talking to you, you're 15 years of age. I'm really
yeah.
happy. MashaAllah. It's good. You're doing very good, MashaAllah. Okay. So how
Mm.
can Google access transparency logs? Uh,
How,
hold on. So how can how can GCP systems, uh, no, that's not hold on. I have to come up with the GDPR and the CPA, right? Okay. Let's check. So let's check. Your topic is all about breach notification and cloud policy. So I have to go,
yeah.
can't give the technical details. Okay, so explain to me, the breach notification process of 27018. What happens? If there's a breach in GCP and Azure, what do you do?
Yeah, as soon as you get the notification, the security administrator has the notification or the cybersecurity analyst that a certain part of the data set has been actually, breached. So the first thing you have to do is you need a list of all the stakeholders of the data, and the most important stakeholder is the customer actually, to whom the data actually belongs. So you have to actually inform all the managers which are responsible for securing the data and making decisions about actually getting things back into place. And you also have to inform the customer uh, whose data it actually was via his dashboard that a certain part of his data has been breached and certain systems are actually in place to make sure we get things back into place as soon as possible. So that is what you're required to do according to the ISO standard.
Okay.
Yep. I think I'm not being extensive enough.
No. It's a good answer. I mean,
Yeah.
you are extensive enough for this topic. There is no need
Yeah.
to go deeper because the topic is not, you haven't mentioned
No.
in your, in your presentation, one thing that I was trying to look for, and I already marked you for that. Open source tools for GDPR and privacy compliance monitoring. Where are they mentioned in your presentation?
I think I haven't mentioned that because
Yes.
I wasn't given a proper guideline about which things to mention. I just figured them out myself.
No. So, look, when we give you this, we gave you this, right? This was given to you, right? This is your examination document, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's mentioned here, this one, deploy
Yeah,
tools for GDPR. See,
I missed that one.
this is
Yeah, got it.
missed. This is not there mentioned in your presentation. I was looking for it and I said, okay. So the key learning objectives are you have to mention, you did mention, Azure Security Center and GCP privacy tools. You did mention those in separate slides, but you missed the open source tools, right? So I'm going to jump into the open source tools anyway, because this is part
Sure.
of the exam. So I'm going to ask you questions regarding that, right?
Go for sure. See what happens.
So one of the things you have to mention, so let me open your presentation because you mentioned the tools, Azure implementing 27 on GCP on Azure, and then you jumped onto the outcomes, right?
Yeah,
So let me ask you something.
sure.
How would you architect a privacy compliance monitoring system using only open source tools for telecommunication providers hosted on AWS or GCP or Azure, which is a multi-cloud environment?
Yeah.
How would you do that?
Yeah, one question before you dive into open source. Are you referring to built-in open source tools by these specific cloud providers or
Cloud
third
providers
party?
don't provide you any built-in tools.
Okay.
All the Azure tools are proprietary tools and they charge you money for that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Google, they sometimes do that, but even they have monetized their tools. So all the cloud providers, they don't provide all their cloud native tools. You pay a service fee for using those tools. So I'm asking you about,
Exactly.
give me some
Third party ones.
tools. Give me some open source tools which are open source, completely freely available that you can work on them, stuff like that. Give me that, please. Give me some names.
I think Snort, I guess, for intrusion detection and prevention system. That's an
Yes.
open source one.
Yeah.
Snort.
Mhm.
And the second thing is
You did this in the last courses
yeah,
of CTS, which
yeah,
was
yeah, exactly.
it ends with search. What's the name?
Which one?
There are three courses designed on that, and all of these courses the name ends with search. What is it?
Yeah, ELK strike, Elasticsearch.
It's Elasticsearch, right?
Yeah.
It's
So
static, it's
it
Elastic Search.
yeah. So it's the
So
ELK stack. It's an open source tool, and you need that to actually be able to monitor your data and run
give me, yes,
SQL queries.
yes. Give me some
Yeah.
names of the tools which are open source used for threat detection uh, and policy enforcement. Not for threat detection, but for policy enforcement.
Policy enforcement.
How do you
There's
enforce?
There's a cloud tool I recently studied. It was, I think, AWS Config. It's an open source one. It's a cloud one. They charge you for it, but open source. The essence of open source is to actually give you access to the source code, and they offer
The
that.
name? What's the name of the tool?
AWS Config.
AWS Config is their cloud native tool. They charge you for that, right? I'm asking you
Yeah.
about which is yesterday. Did you join the meeting yesterday when I was going through one of the student?
No, I haven't.
You should all of the students should attend the meeting. So It starts with 3 letters, right? So
3 letters.
3 letters. It's one of the
I already
most,
mentioned ELK.
no. It's a policy enforcing agent. I've already given you the answer. OPA, Open Policy Agent.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
one of the
This is the
tools
first
to
time I've heard
enforce
of it.
and audit, policies. The other one is Apache Ranger. There's so many other tools, but you just have to give me some names, right? I can't go
Yeah.
deeper into some of the stuff. Okay, so if you have to evaluate the limitations of using open source tools like, Matomo, have you seen Matomo? Matomo is there for, monitoring metadata, right? That the
Yeah.
customers and
Yeah.
the users are creating. So if
Yeah.
you evaluate the limitations of using open source tools like Matomo, in a telco environment, how would you mitigate those limitations? First of all, tell me the limitations and how would you mitigate those limitations?
So if you do that on premises, the first thing you're going to, the first hindrance you're going to encounter is you need to process a lot of data when it actually comes to an industry level scale. So there's going to be petabytes of data, which when you are actually processing on premises can be, quite a lot of work. So you need, that's one of the limitations. You need cloud for that. The second limitation, I guess, is uh, companies mostly have, they need security based on their personal preferences. What open source tools offer is access into the source code. So you can actually get into the source code via your developers and, design it according to your preferences to make it a more, best fit. Yeah.
All right, your test is over. I'm just compiling the results, okay?
Oh,
Sure.
sure.
Okay, Sulaiman, Bismillah, do you want to know your results?
Yep.
Okay. In the presentation, you scored very well. Your communication skills were pretty good, very fluent. The presentation was good, except missing the open source tools, the key objectives was not met. So you
Yep.
lost 2 points. Apart from that, you scored 23 out of 25, which is 92%. Very good, mashallah. Okay. In the Q&A, obviously, you did well, but you scored 74%. Okay, 18.5, you score out of 25, right? So if I combine this score together, right, you scored 83% altogether. Okay.
And the passing score is?
Oh, this is merit. You're already in the merit level, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. So this is almost like, you could have achieved distinction by, in the presentation, you achieved 92. That's distinction, right?
Yep.
In the Q&A, you just struggled a little bit, but it was good. MashaAllah, it's good. So altogether, your score is 83%, which is mashallah very good. Altogether, you have scored merit, right? So it's like A plus grade, mashallah. Okay. What is
Yeah.
what were your grades in your 8th grade?
Yeah, so I'm actually I try my best to balance both of these studies. So I'm doing well. I'm in the top 5. I've been
Mashallah.
scoring in the top 5. Yeah.
Are you doing your O levels or what?
And I'm doing currently metric, but I'm
Metric.
trying my best to save my 6 years of my life. So I just got done with this one. I have to congratulate you for one thing. I became an AWS certified solutions architect associate 7 days ago.
Mashallah, mashallah,
Yeah.
mashallah. So this is my recommendation for you, okay? You're
Yeah.
already studying AIOps?
Yeah, I have. I'm almost done.
Almost done, okay.
Yeah.
So you have to do the labs. The labs, Al Razak program labs are going to be mandatory for everyone from starting from June onwards to be able to get the certification, right? So they have to complete the labs, the assignments, right? This
Exactly.
is to be a key requirement that we are pushing in because of off-call, right?
Yep.
You have completed at the age of 15, you're already in ninth grade, right?
Yep.
You're already doing all of those things. This is my recommendation for you, right? So if you have to ask me, what should you do? What should be your game plan right now and moving forward, inshallah? This is my recommendation for you. Bismillah. So, you know, this is entirely up to you how you would like to proceed. Yes, you can save a lot of your life, years of worth, but you're already at the eighth grade, right? Right?
Yep.
My recommendation to you would be there is a pathway for you to do O levels if you want to do it,
Exactly.
right? Focus on the core exams only, right? The DCCS
Sure.
part you have already completed, the Diploma in Cloud Cybersecurity, right?
Yep.
Already completed that. You can go for, O level because if you need that, because you're in ninth grade, you just went into ninth grade, or
Yeah. I just went tonight.
so you started preparing for ninth exams?
Not yet. I
Not
just
yet.
got done with my, yeah. I
Started.
just got done with my exams. Yeah.
You just got done with your eighth class exams, right?
Yeah. It's been 10 days since I've been going to school.
So this is my recommendation. You don't have to
Yep.
study ninth and 10th grade. You can study computer science, mathematics, chemistry, physics, and English,
Sure.
and be done with them in 1 year time, right? And
Yep.
the second year, go for the BTech, right? Because you have already completed this, then you can just pick up the BTech, but the BTech, you're already doing AI ops, so this one will always be, will be over, right? So you're already
Sure.
going above and beyond because all of these things will already be over by the time that you're done, right? So my
Yep.
recommendation to you is, this is my pure recommendation, follow the pathway of doing your O levels, your BTech, and your HND. AI ops is already almost done with you, right? So O levels, the reason I'm saying is if you want to get, plus with all of this thing, you have a lot of time because you're only studying, right?
Yep. Yep.
Try to go for your Kubernetes exams as well in the serverless
Yeah.
architecture.
Yeah. I'm having the CK exam 6 days late.
CKAD or which one?
No, the CKA. I heard it's good for DevOps engineers. The
No, no.
CCAD is mainly for the developers.
You have to go through all of them. Do the
Oh,
CCAD, CKA, the CKS, and CKSP. You know,
okay.
there's a service
Is that
provider.
a part of the Al Razak requirements?
In Al-Razak, you will go through all the courses, and you have
Sure.
already studied all the courses if you become a QB astronaut, but while completing all of these things, inshallah, you're 15. By the time you're 17, 18, you will be outside of Pakistan working in an international firm, inshallah.
I actually have a couple of questions that I want to ask you.
Okay.
Um,
You
the
can ask
learning,
me
yeah.
the questions when I'm sitting live, inshallah. Okay. But this
Okay,
is
sure.
my recommendation for you. I will be live,
Yeah,
inshallah. So when I'm live, you can join there and you can ask me questions there,
yeah,
inshallah. But
yeah. It's a
to
short
wrap up
question.
your
It won't
exams,
take that much. Yeah.
I have to wrap up your exams results,
Okay,
right?
sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So to wrap this up, mashallah, you scored very, very well. You are
Yeah.
eligible to apply for, if once you complete Al Razak requirements, which is LinkedIn and all those things, start blogging as well, because this is very important for you. Do all of those things. This will allow you, inshallah, to avail the opportunity of getting sponsored through us, inshallah. Okay.
Okay.
So that's another good thing for you. Mashallah, very well done. The topic was, precise as per the level 3. So that's why we couldn't go deeper, but still you were able to stand tall with me and was able to answer all the questions. Good feedback from my side. I see a
Yeah.
great future for you, inshallah. Keep on studying. At the age of 15, 27018. If you ask anyone at the age of 15 about 27018, he will just say, this is just a number, right? 20,000, 718, 718 rupees or dollars or what, right? They wouldn't even know. So, mashallah, this is real good I would say, um, for you, like a new level of development, mashallah. Even for me, I'm seeing my students going at this level, mashallah, that they're doing very, very well, mashallah. Okay. So
Yep.
knowing 27018 is going to be phenomenal for you. We are going to provide you Al Razak program for level 3, which will have
Oh,
labs, right?
okay.
So as long as your membership is active, you will be able to do the labs, right? If you
Yeah.
go into
So,
AI Ops level 6, then you can just say, give me level 6 Al Razak program, because that will already include level
the level
3,
3 ones,
labs anyway.
labs. Sure.
Those labs will be provided to you through Nafi Cloud, right? There's a lot of things happening, and we are introducing new things, right? So
Yep.
there's a lot of strategic framework and forces. I'm going to show you something that we are introducing. Like, for example, these are the core technologies. Whoever works in these core technologies, they manage the world, right? Okay. So the core technologies are AI, ML, semiconductor, quantum computing, space tech, cybersecurity, bioengineering, energy systems, high frequency finance, right? This is another one.
Yep.
Cloud and big data, 5G, 6G communication, robotics, automation, blockchain, synthetic, brain-computer interfaces, BCI, right? Nanotechnology. These are the 22 different fields in the world, which are right now in every sector. You can see it, the health, defense, material sciences, military, security, retail, logistics. All of these things are the sectors where a lot of action is happening, right? So if you work in
Yep.
any of these things, you will be able to ask us as part of the AI ops that you're doing to provide
Yep.
you a stream, within these disciplines. So you'll be provided specific labs, around
Yep.
1,500 tasks and labs combined together through our portal, through Al
Yep.
Nafi Cloud, to work on these labs, right? So this will prepare you for the interviews and everything, inshallah. Okay. For the pathway, we will guide you for the pathway as well. We will give you all the questions and answers and everything, inshallah. I wish you the very best, Muhammad Sulaiman, Amir. You have not disappointed me. In fact, you have made me proud. Uh, so, just give me 1 minute. My mother is saying
Oh, sure.
something. So,
Sure.
so this is great, mashallah, for you. May Allah give you success, and inshallah, I will see you when I'm sitting live. If you have any questions, you can come there and ask me, and I will bring you forward first to
Sure.
uh, answer your questions, inshallah. Okay?
Sure.
Do you have anything
Sure.
to say? Anything else?
Yeah, it's a very short question. It won't take that much time. The thing is, being a student, having an RQF level 3 in cloud cybersecurity and an RQF level 6 diploma in AI ops, and along with that, having a CKA and the cloud solutions architect, and also the ML certificate provided by AWS, which is the machine learning engineering associate. Having this entire stack on your CV, can I expect a job at this age via your job placement program?
So here's the thing. If you
Yep.
complete your AI ops, you have already completed DCCS, okay? Complete your
Yep.
AI ops, complete Al Razak. What is your, which way you want to go? Which fields do you want to go? Like automotive.
Into AI
Okay.
ops engineering.
So specifically AI ops, right?
Yep.
And you become a QB astronaut, right? Like pass
Yep.
CKAD, CKA, CKS, because AI ops, AI systems relies on serverless architecture a lot, right? The
Exactly.
applications and all the processes, CKA, CKS, right? CKS and CKSP service provider. You pass all of them. I'm not concerned about AWS. I mean, if you do AWS, it's fine. If you don't do it, doesn't matter. If you
Yep.
focus on all of these things, complete Al Razak Labs, you will be doing a lot of Linux architecture anyway.
Yep.
You're 15. By the time you're 16, yes, you can earn while working from home in Pakistan, earning $2,000 up to $2,000 to $3,000, because you will have the skills required, inshallah.
Yep.
There is no need for you to go and study O level and BTech and all of these things, right?
Yep.
You can do that. Based on that, you can also, try to pivot yourself towards outside. The only problem is you're very young, right?
Yeah.
Age is going to hinder you, but not for long. As soon as you're 18, then you can move outside and the companies can sponsor you as well.
Okay. I'm
Because,
actually
because you are
according to my
just tell me,
yeah,
hold on, before you answer this, because a person made a mistake yesterday.
okay.
As per your birth certificate and your ID card, what is your age?
Well, mistakenly,
No,
it's not
don't say this because this is
okay.
recorded. Just tell me
Okay.
the age as per your documentation.
Yeah, currently I'm 13 and I'm gonna turn 14 in July.
That's the problem,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know why
I
people.
yeah. I've heard there's a process in place which actually allows you to change your age in the NADRA database. So I'm looking
I
forward
don't
to
know
going
why
through
people
that.
do that. I don't know why people do that. This is wrong. But anyway,
Parents.
again,
Yeah,
legally, it's a serious crime
yeah,
to, in countries outside to report your date of birth incorrectly, right? You have to be accurate. But in Pakistan, the problem is the database systems and all of those things, they
yeah,
could mess up. But legally, as per the documentation, your age is 13
yeah. As of now.
as of right now.
Yeah, in July I'm gonna be 14.
In July, you'll be 14th in
Yeah,
2025, right? And we
yeah,
add by 2029, you will be 18, right? So you
yeah,
have 4 years. In these 4 years, try to complete AI Ops Al Razak program, AI Ops Custom Al Razak program, and the QB astronaut certifications. That is enough for you to go and work globally anywhere. You have a lot of time.
yeah.
Don't rush because once you leave Pakistan and go outside, then there is no coming back. Okay, inshallah. So you have a lot of time.
According to my predictions, I'm gonna be done with all these things, okay, including Al Razak AI Ops and all these certifications
Once you
by
start Al
June.
Azhar, then I will ask you because I know you
Okay.
are young, you have a lot of time. You will be able to spend all the time doing all the labs, which is,
Yep.
mashallah, very, very good. But it will take you at least 6 months, even if you do day and night, right?
Okay.
Right? If you are spending 6, 7 hours, it will take you maybe 3 months. But if you spend 3 hours a day, it will take you 6 months. If you spend like or nine, something like that, right? 6 to 9 months. But
Let's
depending
say
your
let's say if I'm done by August, in 2025, with all those labs and all these things, can I submit a form with you for job placement by Al Razak?
yes, you can.
Exactly. And I've
Yes.
heard, your job placement program works well, especially in the Middle East.
In the Middle East, the only problem is your age. So this is going to be,
Okay.
so they will not offer you a work permit because of your age. The minimum age needs to be 18.
Even
You
for
are,
remote jobs.
for the remote jobs, that's not going to be a problem.
Okay. So
The 16
yeah,
years
I'm
of
done.
age, Musa Jamal is working for a Middle Eastern
Yeah.
company remotely.
Yeah.
Many of my students
Hazen.ai.
yes, many of my students, I think you have beaten him, for
Yeah, actually, I'm an envious person or an egotistical. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad one.
only be envious in doing good deeds. Everything
Yeah,
else,
exactly.
this is what Islam says. When you're doing good deeds, only be envious in that. Apart from that, everything else, be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah is giving you success, inshallah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. I will answer you other questions once you are live, inshallah. Once I'm live, you can
inshallah. Okay.
come there and
Yeah.
ask me the questions. Okay. Jazakallah khair for your time. And I wish you
Salam
the best, inshallah, in the future.